Welcome back to Confessions of a Recruiter with Blake and Declan. We are on a global mission to build the world's largest community of recruiters so we can all connect and succeed together.
That's right. If you want to check out more of Confessions of a Recruiter, jump onto confessions.tv, subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, access merch, and if you want to chat to us directly, join our Discord at XR House with the links below. Now, we hope you enjoy this episode.
The BT special. So Blake, mate, thanks for coming on Confessions.
Thanks for inviting me, Declan. Really good to be here.
You G'd up, you excited?
Oh, I've been wanting to come on the podcast for a while now. I'm a huge fan.
What do you love most about the pod, mate?
I just love that it's raw conversations. You know, talking to recruiters from all walks of life gives me an opportunity to listen to how other people do things.
Well, mate, tonight we're going to listen to how you do it.
Yes.
What you've done.
Yeah.
So, mate, let's take it all the way back.
I was thinking you might have said that. How far back do you want to go?
I want to go back to growing up.
Growing up? Oh,
No,
mate, that's a pretty far way back.
That's pretty far way back.
All right, let me give you the kind of like the 2-minute overview.
I just think there's a lot that people don't know about you.
Okay. All right. So I was born in Hervey Bay, grew up in Hervey Bay, moved to Brizzy when I was in grade 2. Went to a lot of different schools because mum and dad used to move around a lot, and ended up going to Nudgee College for high school. I got asked to leave Nudgee College in
Why?
a really polite way. I was a bit of a menace. Wasn't too great with the teachers. I think I think the straw that broke the camel's back was I got my ear pierced. They said that I had to take it out. I said no. I spent $20 on getting my ear pierced. I'm not taking it out. And the workaround was I had to put a Band-Aid over the piercing. So I did that. So I was walking around, and this is when like diamond earrings were a thing. And I got...
Are they cubic zirconia?
Yeah. I had this like fat, fake diamond earring in grade 10, thinking I was a mad dog. And then I had to put a big Band-Aid over it. So I was just walking around with a big fat Band-Aid hanging off my ear.
From Monday to Friday.
Yeah. And anyway, that was no good. So anyway, left Nudgee at the end of year 10. So I never actually graduated school. Went to TAFE, was going to be an electrician. Didn't pass that either. And then I worked at McDonald's full time when I was 16.
For how long?
Couple years. So worked at McDonald's full time, and when I was 16, actually, this is probably an interesting story. When I was 16, I negotiated my wage with McDonald's because it's based on how old you are, and I was full time. I was like the backbone of the back area making those Big Macs, and I was getting like $14.
Which
an
McDonald's?
Hour. Albion.
Albion, yep.
And I was getting like $14 an hour, and so they were hiring all these new starters to work in the back area, and I was the one training them up. So they was getting like these 21-year-old, 20-year-old like Indian guys, couldn't speak much English, didn't really know how to do anything, and I was teaching them how to do shit, and they were getting paid like $24 an hour or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And I was teaching them how to do shit. So I sat down with the store manager. I'm like, mate, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not happy. He's like, what do you mean? I said, mate, I'm getting $14 an hour because I'm 16. I'm here full time, and I'm training guys coming in that are getting paid more than me. I want a pay rise. And so I was the only person at that McDonald's that was able to negotiate a higher hourly rate. So I ended up getting $19 an hour because they're like, okay, yeah, fair enough. You got $19 an hour, blah, blah, blah. And then I was making, I don't know, maybe $600 a week, $650 a week, working full time at Macca's when I was 16. Then ended up getting a job elsewhere. I was like, all right, I need to do something more than McDonald's. And then I ended up selling cans of car wax in car parks, commission only, for probably 12 months. And I freaking loved that job. So we had set up a
Run us through
table.
it, mate. Was it Super Wax? Was
It's
that
called FW1, Fast Wax.
Yeah, Fast Wax. And it's in a black can.
Black
You spray it on
can.
your car.
Yeah, waterless wash.
Yeah.
And so you would go to a shopping center. You would set up a table in the car park and then put lots of cans in like a big like pyramid to make the the stand look cool. And then when people would turn up and pull up into the car park, you'd walk over to him and be like, hey, how are you? Oh, don't mind me. Ha ha. I'm just here doing a promotion today. Have you seen this before? You spray shit on their car and they wig out. They're like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? I'm like, oh, don't worry here, sir. Let me show you how this works. And then you like clean a spot in their car and show them how clean it is, and then walk them back over to your promo table where your pyramid of cleaning cans are and try and sell them these cans. And you got $5 commission per can that you sold. And I think I was selling maybe 20 to 30 cans a day. So I was ripping in. I was making maybe, I don't know,
100 to 150 a day.
Yeah.
So you're making almost less money than you were at Macca's?
No, I was making more money.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was definitely making more money than Macca's. Probably just a little bit more, but it was fun. It was exhilarating. We set up at servos. We'd go on like road trips, and you know, the owner of this like car cleaning wax company, like I thought he was like such a big dog, and I wanted to be like him and start my own pyramid scheme selling car wax in car parks. And my parents essentially convinced me not to. Said, "Look, you got to go get a real job. I don't think you should continue to down this." Like I was doing it for a year. Like I was really enjoying it. And I think by this time I was maybe 17. And then I ended up, I was still 16. I was still 16 when I was doing this, because I was like 15 when I left school. And then I went and got a job at a car yard, and I sold aftermarket when I was 17 to maybe 20. So yeah, on my 17th birthday, I was selling aftermarket in car dealerships. And I've actually got a photo. I wonder if I can get this photo up. This will be a really funny photo. So I was 17 and I looked like a 17-year-old mate at the car dealership trying to sell window tint to people that would buy a new car. I actually did really, really well with that. I like tripled the highest revenue of the month for the previous aftermarket consultants that would come in. I made a lot of really good money. I think I was making maybe 110, 120 grand a year when I was 17 years old. And saved up, bought a house on my 18th birthday. Technically, actually, before my 18th birthday. It was a couple of weeks before my 18th birthday, and because I couldn't sign that sale contract. Mum and Dad had to pretend that I was on holidays for 2 weeks. The real estate agent was going, hey, like, where's Blake? I need him to sign this, like, contract of sale for this property. It was over near Chermside in Zilmere. So really rough neighborhood. That's all I could afford. And then, so yeah, bought that, had that house for maybe about 4.5, 5 years or something. I used to rent it out each room to like uni students, then sold it for whatever reason. So I was in car sales aftermarket for probably 5 or 6 years, then got into photocopiers. I knew a few guys that I met out.
Before we get there, mate, that is like some critical learnings. Like a lot of people struggle to communicate with another human being. Walk up to someone, you're 16, start chatting to a stranger, put shit on their car, and then sell them a can of...
Yeah, it was an art form, but you had to have fun with it because you were getting rejected. Like, people would look at you like you're a piece of shit. And so you really had to be okay with having fun with it and getting rejected. Like, sometimes you'd buddy up with someone. So there'd be like maybe 2 or 3 of you in the car park selling car wax. And so you'd buddy up with someone and, you know, you'd make a joke. You'd be like, all right, let's see if we can like wig the next person out that comes up in their car. And so they would park, they'd get out of their car and we'd go and say hello to them. And then we'd look up in the sky and pretend like there's a meteorite coming down and we'd just run away. And then all of a sudden they'd be like looking around and they'd like run away a little bit, feeling a little bit like unsure and nervous. And you just be playing pranks on people, trying to sell like car cleaning products. You know, one guy I sold 40 cans to. 40 cans.
How many cars does he have?
Oh, mate, he has like 1 or 2 cars, but he was like, he wanted to start like a panel beating shop or something. And, you know, when you're selling car wax, you're not being that straightforward. You know, you start to stretch the truth, and then the truth stretches a little bit more, and then it stretches a little bit more. So like, I think 1 can of wax cleaned like 2 cars. And then you say it cleans 3 cars for so long that you end up saying it cleans 4 cars, and then all of a sudden 1 bottle cleans like 6 cars. And, you know, you're 17, 16 or whatever, and you're running around saying this shit and just trying to sell $25 cans of wax. But yeah, that was
And what happened to him?
I don't know. You never see these guys again. You just sell the product and you move on. But you know, that was my entry into sales. Basically, is selling cans of wax in car parks, commission only. It was really scary. Like my first day, I was like, holy shit. But then like afterwards, it was really fun.
Mate, that's a pivotal shaping moment, because whenever you'd come to my house, you'd be the guy that would come up, give mum a kiss on the cheek, give her a hug. No other 16-year-old would do that to any parent and be like, oh, Blake's over.
Well,
I've just be like, always done that.
I've always found it awkward if you go into a room and you don't address someone and acknowledge that they're there. It's like awkward as. Yeah. So like you do your rounds, like, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? No matter how old they are, I think it's important to acknowledge someone's existence.
Yeah. But 16-year-olds like giving mum a kiss on the cheek and a hug and
oh, that's cute.
Yeah. It's no wonder, you get the confidence to do that from doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's always been pretty street smart, thinking outside the box. What was it like aftermarket? Because, mate, they've just been, the customer's been absolutely smashed by the salesperson. They've been the negotiation battle in and out of the dealer principal's office or the sales manager's office, and then you got to sit down and sell them a $2,000 pack.
Yeah. So aftermarket was really good. So with aftermarket, you've got maybe 5 or 10 minutes to sell them something worth $2,000. And so the good learning points on aftermarket is you've got to build rapport really quickly, close them really, really quickly, and try and get some money out of them. The downside is people come to you. So it's a retail sales role where it's good where people are already in buying mode. They just bought a car, but it's difficult to try and build rapport and close someone on something as like trivial as like rust proofing or fabric protection or leather protection or window tint. Tint's easy. Usually most people get tint, but all the other stuff, it's kind of like a Fugazi. It's like I get some sort of warranty on this like amazing paint thing that goes on my paint, but like what is it really? It's kind of like, you know, it's basically the upsell of car dealerships. That's where they make their money. I used to, before I started selling the aftermarket, I used to go and apply all the products because I was quite close with the owner of the business. Like he was telling me it cost like 6 cents for leather protection, fabric protection, and they're selling it for $700. And so I've never
Is that
really,
a 1,000,000% markup?
Oh, it's crazy. It's literally just a bottle of spray, like a spray and wipe, and they just go on the seats.
Yeah, I
and
used
then
to have to put it on.
and it's gone. And so, you know, it's pure profit, those packs. But
Motor One?
it wasn't Motor One, it was called Paz. They own their own, the dealership that I worked for owned their own aftermarket company. So you have Motor One and then other ones. But yeah, so aftermarket was good. It really taught me a lot being in a car dealership around sales techniques, closing, qualifying, negotiating. They were really heavy techniques that I learned in cars. And that's what gave me my foundations of sales, really, being extroverted enough to go and approach someone in a car park and try and see if they want to buy a can of wax. And then actually more of a formal training around qualifying, closing, and negotiating in cars. But what I really did lack was the outbound effort and energy on prospecting. Because I'd never actually physically gone to try and chase new business before, that was a really big weak part of my skill set. In car parks, you just stand in the car park and wait for someone to turn up. It's not really going after people with direction or being deliberate. So yeah, I did that for a little while, then got out of that after like 6 years. Heard my mate was making like $500K a year selling photocopiers. And so I was like, geez, give me a crack at that. I'm an amazing sales guy. I've been in cars. I'm killing it, blah, blah, blah. But that was probably my biggest wake-up call because selling cars and being in retail sales is night and day difference to being a actual full-blown outbound sales guy having to generate their own business, like in recruitment. And so I did that for a year and a half. I sold my house when I just started selling photocopiers to like bankroll me while I was comm only, because selling photocopiers is commission only. And made a little bit of money out of my house. Not that much. I only had it for like 4 years. So I think I made maybe 30 grand or 40 grand or something like that. But it was enough to get me by for like a year. And
So you were planning on not having a sale for a year?
I needed money. Yeah, I had no money. It was comm only.
Yeah, but like what's the sales cycle selling a photocopier or a printer?
1 year, 2 years, 2 weeks. It depends. Like if you can imagine that they're 5-year finance contracts, these photocopiers. So you don't make money out of actually the photocopier. You make money out of finance. So like you'll sell a photocopier for $200 a month and you get unlimited printing and blah, blah, blah and all this kind of stuff. But what you're actually really doing is you're selling a photocopier for like $50K on finance and you're just telling the person it's $200 a month. It's like full cowboy industry, hardcore, like you're essentially just ripping people off. And
what was the sales environment like? Would you all come to an office and like
Yeah,
huddle around the Toshiba and
yeah, everyone was like full proper sales guys. Like it was a great environment where everyone had to be entrepreneurial in the way that they approach business. I didn't get too much sales training, unfortunately. Like no one really taught me how to get through a gatekeeper, you know, how to figure out how to do a call cycle, how to call on clients and qualify them and get your foot in the door. And most of sales, the hardest part is just getting your foot in the door. Once you like talking to someone, it's pretty easy to kind of build a relationship and sell them something. But it's so hard to actually go into someone completely cold and have them interested in talking to you if there's no immediate need. So basically I scraped by the bottom of the barrel for like a year and a half selling photocopiers. I was eating cans of tuna and shit.
cream rice?
Creamed rice. Like I was just cooking like massive spaghetti bolognese that would last me like 4 days for lunch. And I would basically just go into the city. I'll go hit a building up that's like 30 levels and I'd go to level 30, hit up the receptionists. They'd all say no. And then I'd hit up level 29 and I'd just work my way down each floor and try and talk to people and see if their photocopying contract is up for renewal. And
That's all you'd ask?
Yeah, you'd go in and go, hey, how are you? Who do you use for your photocopying? Oh, okay, I'm working at CSG. It's called CSG at the time. I work at CSG. You know, we help out people with their photocopiers. We can actually save you some money. Would you be interested in saving money in your photocopying? And like, that is one of the lowest priorities of any business. Can we save $10 a month on our photocopiers? And especially being on a 5-year finance contract on a photocopier.
You can't get out.
Mate, like you go in like, mate, I'm 4 years in, I'm 3 years in, I'm 2 years in. Like you've got a 1 in how many, let's say 300 days times 5. What's that? That's 1,500 days. You've got a 1 in 1,500 day chance of going into somewhere that actually are interested in changing the photocopier contract. And so it was really tough. I think I sold maybe...
Did you sell any?
Maybe like 6 or 7 photocopiers.
And what did you make?
I think I was making maybe just a bit under $1,000 a week.
So you said 6 or 7 and you made 50 grand.
Mate, there was a guy in my office. He made $2 million commission off one sale. $2.5 million. There was another guy in the office. He had one client making $1 million a year.
From renting these machines.
Renting these machines. And so what they would do is, I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus, but like these were like predatory finance contracts that would just be absolutely crushing businesses and signing them up to these wild monthly repayments. Like his
If you're
his
making
client,
$2.5 million out of one deal, would you get paid on the first year or would you get paid on the whole length of the contract?
the whole thing up front.
And you'd get it up front?
Yeah. So the finance contract was like 10 million. It was for, the deal's already done, so maybe the cat's out of the bag. Who is the employment agency that's not Serena Russo?
Tersa.
Keep going.
Max Employment.
Max Employment. It was Max Employment. Yeah. So they signed like a $10 million photocopier deal.
Nationally.
Yeah, because they just won some sort of government contract where they went from like 100 employment agencies to like 300 across Australia. And they needed a photocopier in every employment agency. And so Big Gav, absolute legend, he sold like a $10 million contract for all these photocopiers. And I think there was like $5 million profit in the deal. And he got paid like $2.5–3 million comms. It was fucking crazy. And then they didn't want to pay him his comms straight away because it was so much money. And so they ended up going to court and he sued him for his comms. And then they had to pay him out his comms and he doesn't work there anymore. It's this big crazy thing.
Holy, and you're 21.
Yeah. And then anyway, so I wasn't making any money. I was actually in probably a little bit of a chaotic time in my life at this point, working comm only, selling photocopiers. I was going out, I was partying, I was drinking, I was doing all sorts of stuff. And I had the world against me. There was no chance I'd be successful, long story short, because I was 21, I was partying too much. And then I applied for a random job ad and I got a job in recruitment. Didn't even know what it was until I turned up.
Didn't you work at a signage company?
Oh, yeah.
They built this. They built our confession sign.
Yeah, I worked there 6 months. I worked here 6 months when I was maybe 20. Skyline displays. I worked there for 6 months from when I was maybe 20.
And you drove around in a car, voice recording businesses you drove past?
Yeah.
Was that job?
No, that was photocopiers.
Photocopiers,
Yeah. So you would drive around industrial areas and you'd see signs and you'd just say the business name so you could have a recording of it. So when you get back to the office, you can call them and be like, hey, I drove past the other day. Just thought I'd give you a buzz.
Why wouldn't you just look it up on Google Maps?
You didn't know. Like how do you look up on something on Google Maps?
The location, the street.
Oh, you like Google Earth it and walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing that because you'd drop in. You'd physically be dropping in and cold calling. I remember my first ever drop-in cold call selling photocopiers. And I walked into this company. I think it was out in Brendale. Yeah, it was out in Brendale somewhere. And it was like a fish aquarium business.
You've got something, mate, with fishes. It's coral.
Yeah. And I walked in and I just blanked it. I was like, what the fuck am I here for? What do I even say to this girl? I was like, hey. I was like, I think it was my birthday actually too. And I was like, hey, what's up? I was like, I'm just here to talk to you about your photocopiers. And she's like, okay. I was like, yeah, so what photocopiers have you got at the moment? She's like, do you sell us our photocopiers or are you someone else? I was like, I'm someone else. Like, so you don't sell us our photocopiers? I was like, no. She's like, okay, maybe just give me a card and, we'll get back to you. Like, radio. And that was really hard, dude. That was so hard because I had no training. I had no idea how to cold call. All I did, literally for like maybe 6 months, I would sit in my car and watch pump up like motivational videos on YouTube before I'd have to go cold call these buildings. I'm like, come on, Blake, get in there. Come on. Oh, fuck, I don't want to get in there. I'm like, that's it. I'd get this like 10-minute inspirational video up and it'd be like, you can do it. You are the master of your destiny. And I'll be like, come on, Blake, come on, Blake. All right, that's it. I'm going in. And then I'd just go hit the building up. I'd come back out with nothing and I'd be like, fuck, got to do the next building now. It was so shit.
Mate, those videos get you through some dark times.
Mate,
they
those
got me through my
videos
apprenticeship.
pump you, mate, they pump you up, mate. You watch these motivational videos on YouTube and you're like, fuck, I can take on the world. So, yeah, I think I had like heaps of videos that I'd always go to pump me up, to try and get me in cold calling BD mode, but it was not easy.
And did the guys at the top, it obviously, because they get so much up front, how is it sustainable then? Because they didn't just roll over it. So they just contact the person that sold them the previous printer and they just renew the contract with them?
Yeah,
and
so
that's
why
these guys just stay there?
Yeah. So what happens is you sell them a printer for 5 years, a 5-year loan, and they rent it. They don't own it. So they're paying all this money for a machine they've got to give back at the end of 5 years. And then, so what happens is at like the 3rd year, you'll go to the client. So you've been paid, let's say they have 6 printers and you make $100,000 out of 6 printers. It's generally what you would do. And maybe they'd have 100 clients or 150 clients. But one guy had just one big fish and he was just milking $1 million a year out of them. So after 3 years, you'd go, hey, guys, just wanted to have a bit of a catch-up, talk to you about your photocopiers. Right now, you're spending $500 a month. You've still got 2 years left in your contract, but hey, look, I've done some creative stuff right now, and I'm here to actually save you some money. And they'd be like, oh, what do you mean? You're like, oh, well, you're paying $500 a month right now. I think if we just kind of jig some stuff up, we could probably get you down to $390. And they'd be like, fuck yeah, great. But what they don't realize is you're just extending the loan term another 5 years. So instead of having 3 years left on their loan, you just re-sign a new finance contract for another 5 years. and just refinance the whole thing again.
They wouldn't cotton onto that.
No, there'd be nothing about it in the contracts. It's weird. Yeah. I don't know how they got away.
ACCC can get into.
Mate, I don't know how they got away with it. But like the photocopier industry is.
Where would it be now? Who prints?
It's the same shit.
People still use it.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not as big. I think they've probably peeled back 50% of the industry because not many people print anymore. But yeah, it was like all the Xerox photocopier sales guys. They were all guys making $1 million a year selling photocopiers. It was like a big industry. It was like SaaS, the SaaS industry right now. SaaS sales guys are rolling around making $500,000 selling these SaaS products in businesses. That's what photocopiers were like during the 90s and 2000s because everyone needed a photocopier. So like you were a photocopier sales guy, you were making cream because everyone needed one.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then, mate, so then how'd you get into recruitment?
I applied for Morgan sent me a job ad. He was like, hey, bro, this has got an OT of $100,000. Looks like you'd be interested in this one. I was like, yes, sweet. Applied for it. Still had no idea. Rolled up, had an interview, still didn't know. Got called back for the second interview. And it wasn't until my old boss wrote out like this. I needed to do this like pitch, like a role play. It was like, you need to pitch me 2 candidates and, need to convince me to interview them or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is fucking recruitment. Okay. And then I made some resumes, made up a few fake business cards, pitched him, and then got the job. That's how I got into recruitment. I just applied for a random job ad. Completely didn't mean to get into recruitment.
What do you reckon you'd be doing if you didn't do recruitment?
I have no idea. I was jobless. I was like, fuck, I can't keep selling these photocopiers. I need to focus my energy on something else. And then I had no job to go to, and that was the first job I applied for. And I was fucking stoked too because he offered a $55K salary plus super plus comms. And at the time, $55K was like what I was earning. I was like, you fucking beauty. I didn't even need to earn comms to be like making the same money as I was making selling photocopiers. This is fucking great. And so getting into recruitment and having my first actual salary job at like $55K, because in cars it was like $36,000, something really small. And then earning $55,000, I thought I was rich just off my base salary. So yeah, it was really good getting into recruitment.
And have you always just done, maybe not photocopiers, but every other sales job you've done really well at? And was recruitment just another one of them?
I found recruitment exceptionally easy when I first started, just because it made sense to me. It made it, how do I put this? I felt it was really easy because I was coming from like such a hard slog of selling photocopiers that anything was easier than that. And so understanding B2B sales, getting into recruitment makes recruitment so much easier. I think if I went straight from cars into recruitment, I would have had the same outcome as selling photocopiers. I don't think I would have lasted in recruitment if I went straight from cars into recruitment, to be honest.
Declan did.
Fucking, he's a story. You should hear his podcast, actually. It's really good. And so the whole aspect of having to be able to have the awareness and perseverance and focus on finding and being deliberate with finding a client and finding a candidate out of nothing was something that I lacked in all my previous sales jobs. It was like people would come to me and I'd sell to them, and it was really good. And then once they were in front of me, I was really great and made friends. But it's the hardest part of recruitment, I think, for anyone is understanding how to engage someone, where to find them in the first place, having the thought to go, I think I should approach this person, knowing the person to approach, approaching them, being clear with your message on what the value add is, and then creating a conversation. That's like the hardest part for most recruiters. It's like creating that initial conversation. And so I was really good at that, fucking door knocking, photocopiers. Hey, your photocopy is black and white, prints 48 pages a minute. This puppy, 52 pages a minute. You get 4 pages a minute of productivity out of this photocopier, and you don't have to do anything. Like, that's the kind of shit that I was saying. And so when you call someone and there's a legitimate need, It's so much easier, especially like I felt it was like such a no-brainer when you can go and seek and all your leads are there. I never got that. I literally just had to like drive around an industrial area or hit a building up and just guess if someone wanted a photocopier. There was no leads, there was no inbound, there was no nothing. It was just like completely just guessing and conversations and trying to speak to as many people as possible. Maybe 50 to 60 cold calls a day for 6 months straight. And so once I got into recruitment and I saw Seek, and I was like, there's all these businesses looking for staff right now. And I thought, this is fucking amazing. Like you've just got literally like 350 pages of leads sitting here within the last 30 days. How easy is this job? And then my first couple of weeks in recruitment, I was just calling people off Seek. Like, hey, you need someone? I'll send someone to you. Give me a crack. Or you just make it up. You're like, oh, mate, I see you're looking for a sales guy, hey? Got a couple of sales guys for you. Like, all right, send them over. Like, all right, sweet. Then you go find a couple of sales guys and...
Walk us through your first client meeting. Do you remember the first one? And he's like, mate, how long have you been in recruitment? Do you remember that?
Are you talking about the video that we did when I was talking about when I was first in business?
No. When you were first in recruitment, the guy's like, mate, why would I use you? How long you been in recruitment? You're like, mate, this is my first month, but I'm more proactive than any other recruiter you'll ever work with. And you didn't lie to him? You don't remember that? Maybe that was a wives' tale.
Maybe that was a lie or something. I don't know. Maybe I made that up. I don't know. Like my first physical meeting with a client. Mate, I reckon, honestly, we weren't taught to meet clients.
No, it was all transactional over the phone.
So transactional. And so it was just volume and making shit happen as quickly as humanly possible. And then that was it. It was like every single moment of your life, you're in a state of emergency with extremely high amounts of pressure to try and just get a job on, fill it within 2 days. And you would have no relationships with clients. You'd have no relationship with candidates. Like maybe you'd have a relationship with a client because you'd like jamming candidates down their throat. Like they'd hire someone because you sent them someone good, but they wouldn't be fucking happy about it.
Yeah, they'd always...
Oh, fucking hell, this guy pisses me off, but he's got a good candidate. And so it was never enjoyable. It was never super like, oh, I done a good job here. But, my first ever client meeting, I can't even remember what my first client meeting is.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, just wanted to jump in here. We got a confessions hotline, so give us a call, send us a text if you want to share any juicy stories or even just ask a question that's been on your mind because we'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 0485 865 483. Enjoy the rest of the show. And then you went to your parents, were like, hey, we want you to come work for us.
Yeah, so I was like, I think I started in like a November. I did a 6K month in like my first month because I started in, I started at mid-November, did a 0 because I was 2 weeks in. And then December, I did a 6K month because it was like 2 weeks and then we went on holidays. I think I did a deal between Christmas and New Year's. January, I did like a 6K month because it was like 2 weeks of the month. But then February after, I think I averaged like 40K a month until I left. And I think I left on maybe a 55 or a 60K month. And it was like maybe my 13th or 14th month in recruitment. And so I was doing really well. I was probably on track to be billing, over 400K in my first year and loving life and making good money. But then my parents, they started a business probably 12 months prior to, at the same time as I got into recruitment, actually. Now,
so were they doing car sales their whole career and then they started the hair care distribution?
Yeah. Oh, they started hair salons. They had salons for like 10 years. Mum was running hair salons. Yeah. She left cars.
Early.
She left cars early, went and ran hair salons, isn't a hairdresser, has no idea why she did it. And then they decided to start a distribution business selling organic hair and beauty products to salons across Australia because Mum had like 5 or 6 organic hair salons. She was buying products from all these suppliers. They were shit products. She wanted better products. And then she thought, why don't I just be the supplier? And then went and found suppliers herself. And then she sold into like the organic hair care industry in Australia. So yeah, so then she started a distribution business. She needed sales reps to go and sell these products. And she said, you know, Blake, you obviously you're a good sales guy. Come and work for the family business. And I thought, all right, sweet. And they're like, you'll be a national sales manager one day, blah, blah, blah. I was like, fucking you beauty. The testosterone in me at the time, I've said this a few times, I thought I'll be hanging out with hot chicks all day.
Well, there's a fair bit of testosterone in you.
There was, mate. There was a fair bit. And I thought I'd be hanging out with hot chicks all day at hair salons and all this kind of stuff, and that's furthest from the truth. And then I went to resign at my last agency and didn't take it well. It was like, it was pretty shit because I walked away from heaps of commissions because I resigned, not like waiting for my next comms to like strategically resign. The boss was away at the time. He was like on holiday for a week or, you know, whatever. And I was waiting for him to come back. Came back. The day he came back, I was like, oh, mate, can we catch up? Hey, yeah, look, I'm done. I'm going to work for my mum and dad. And he basically called me all the names under the sun, called me a snake, and was like, yeah, you're fucking lying to me, mate. I've fucking done everything for you. And I was like, mate, you have actually been a really good boss. Like he was, you know, sometimes, you know.
People come into your life at certain points for certain reasons.
Yeah, and like he was really good at just creating a solid foundation for recruitment and being proactive. Like that was what he's really, really good at. But I think one of the weaknesses, and obviously, you know, this was years ago now, so who knows how he is at the moment. He probably doesn't give a shit. But, you know, at the time, like he certainly had a fear of people leaving and starting their own agency. And I am a true believer that, you know, he manifested me starting my own agency. I ended up working for mum and dad. He called me all these names under the sun, withheld my commissions, and I thought, what an asshole. Went and worked for my parents for like 3 to 4 months. Absolutely hated it. Like, it was not fun. And I sat there with my mum and I'm like, Mum, like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I hate this. I was doing so well in recruitment. I was earning great money. I was with all my mates because obviously all the boys were in recruitment. We all got the job at this one agency and we were all doing really good. So it was like all your best mates, all in recruitment, all having a fun time. And I've just fucking left. And now my ex-boss fucking hates me because he thought I was going to start my own recruitment agency, and he was like telling me he's going to investigate me and all this shit. And then so I said to my mum, I was like, what am I going to do? She's like, can you go back to your old boss? I'm like, no, I can't do that. And I wish if he didn't burn me on the way out, I would still be working there to this day. And so it was obviously a blessing in disguise for me. And it was, I guess, a moment where he manifested me actually starting my own recruitment agency. And now he probably thinks, I was fucking right. He was planning to start his own recruitment agency, but I wasn't. And I ended up doing it because I couldn't go back to him. And I didn't really feel like going to start from scratch somewhere else. So yeah, ended up just starting Vendito. Mum said, look, I'll pay you a salary until you get up and running. And I think she gave me like $500 or $1,000 a week or something like that for 6 weeks because I had $0. And so, yeah, just kind of lent into my family and my mum, and she said she'll give me a bit of a salary for a little bit. And then Vendito was born.
Mate, what was it like? So your mum's like, you start from what date in which she said you need to start or you should start Vendito? Like, how did you even come up with that name? What was your...
I was making up random names. I was like, what sounds good? Verve, Vendito, this. And I think mum's marketing manager at the time, she's like, I think her partner was like some sort of wordsmith. She goes, what about Vendito? And I was like, Vendito sounds pretty cool. She's like, it's Latin for closing a sale or making a sale, something like that. And I was like, I'm a fucking salesperson. I'm doing a sales recruitment agency. This is perfect. And then I chose Vendito. You know, and sometimes in the first probably 6 to 12 months, we got confused a little bit with people like, what, you called your business Bandito? Are you serious? Like the bikies? And I'm like, no, mate, it's not Bandito. It's Vendito. And so that was a little bit of a hurdle for the first couple of months, but we got past that.
And then, yeah, how long did it take from when you first said, hey, all right, I'm going to do it, I'm not selling hair care products, to when you...
I think a week.
First cold call?
Oh, first cold call. From when I made
actually
the
like
decisions,
became in business? Yeah.
I would say, days. It was like, why don't you start your own recruitment agency? Over the weekend, I made a random logo and went and got a laptop and started creating a hit list and then just started banging out the phone calls. I don't think we registered the business until 3 months after. I was working as
Until you got an invoice.
No. Post in getting invoices. I think I was working as an independent contractor. Yeah, I think I was working under my mum's ABN or something, and we're invoicing out of my mum's ABN or something like that. But it was not legitimate because it was like maybe a September that I started actually recruiting, but I didn't register the business until December. So the first when I first started, it was pretty crazy. I employed one of my mates, Morgan, and tried to teach him how to do recruitment. He was my housemate at the time. That didn't go well. I was trying to figure out how to be a recruiter again after like 4 months off, and then train some guy to be a recruiter, and I'd never trained anyone before. Like I had 14 months experience in recruitment. So in normal terms, I'm still pretty green. And so I was just kind of winging it, bashing out the cold calls. And my first actual placement was with a temp recruitment agency. And I still didn't even realize after the placement, I still didn't even know it was a temp recruitment agency.
Who was it?
Placed a bit, I don't know. It was some like temp recruitment agency on the south side of Brisbane. And I placed some temp recruiter there, BDM, and he fucking strung me out for like 2 months to pay the invoice. I think I ended up doing like a 15K fee with him or something like that. It was near 15K. But when that first 15K hit my bank account, I was like, I'm fucking rich, baby. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it was the best feeling to get your first invoice paid. So that was pretty fun. And that was probably like a November-ish kind of area. Probably got my first deal paid maybe inside 2 months. And then a friend at the time, Josh, he was in Melbourne at the moment. He worked at my last agency, Rock. I convinced him to come up and join me because he wasn't having too much luck in recruitment down in Melbourne. So he came up to Melbourne, and he joined Vendito as well. And then I kind of convinced like 4 other mates over the Christmas break, because I started in like kind of like September, and we started actually recruiting and registering the business in like November, December. And then over the Christmas break, I kind of like convinced like 4 mates to come and work at Vendito, commission only. And they all started on the 2nd of January. Com only, 50-50 comms, 10K cost a seat. And so everyone was working 50-50 comms with a 10K cost a seat. So the cost a seat for the month, 10K a month per person, there was 5 people there. I had a 50K inbound revenue before any bills were getting paid. And so made heaps of cash.
And no one got on?
No one really, everyone was like, yeah, fair enough, whatevs. Like no one really knew. Everyone was just kind of like figuring it out as well. But it was, made a lot of money in my first like 6 to 12 months, probably because of that structure specifically. But all the boys were kind of averaging like 15 to 20K a month. So they would get paid 5-6 grand, which was still all right for them just having a random commission only job. They were making 5-6 grand a month. So what's that? 60-70 grand a year, maybe. And then the business was making 15 grand per person as well. So it did really, really well. But there was some issues there with culture. Working with a bunch of your mates, all com only, just kind of got into a bit of a boys' club.
And what was like the first thing happened for that? Because, mate, still, like, people sometimes go through recruitment, they can't even bill 15, 20K a month anyway. So, like, when did the wheels start falling off?
When did they start falling off in relation to
it all going south?
I don't think the wheels were ever on, mate. I don't think the wheels were ever on because, like, oh, look, they were. Like, it was just it was chaotic, though. It was, like, chaotic order. And so, like, we're making some money, but it was, like, high stress, high chaos, wild. And it was very difficult to draw the line between friends and boss. And so, because I was, 22, 23, 24, something like that. How old was I? 24.
24, yeah.
I was 24 years old when I started the agency. And I'm like single, 24, partying, like being a bit of a rat bag. And so were all the boys, and everyone kind of knew each other as being, the boys. And so like you'd come in to the office on a Monday and like everyone's talking absolute shit from the weekend. And here's a little fun fact. So I started my office out of my parents' office. It had like this warehouse in Nunda and like a mezzanine level. They had the bottom level, I had the top level. But with a mezzanine, like you can hear everything. And so mum's staff used to complain that we used to swear all day. And so like we're up there talking like apps, like really no filter shit, all 24, 25-year-olds, comm only, no other senior people around, just kind of winging it. And yeah, hopefully I've painted that picture. My mum would come up at least 3 times a day and goes, guys, what the hell? Stop swearing. And we'd be like, oh, sorry. She ended up having to print no swearing signs and laminate them and put them on everyone's desks to remind them to stop swearing. And so it was just like the professionalism just dropped and dropped and dropped. And there was no dress code. People were like rocking up in singlets and shirts. And it was just like everyone was just doing base level instincts. And so I originally wanted to change the culture because I thought, like 6 to 9 months in, I thought this is fucking crazy shit. And how do I like create a better business? And I need to have like some more rules and expectations on everybody. So I sat down, I created like a code of ethics and tried to get buy-in from the group around, what are our ethics, what are our values, what are we all trying to achieve, all that kind of stuff. And that kind of worked, but ultimately at the end of the day, ended up having to get rid of most of them.
And it was all just one by one? There wasn't like grand moment where you're like, stuff this?
It was one by one. It was like a gradual change in culture. It's really hard. I think at one point I had 12 people, 12 consultants working for me. At this point, I'd put everyone on 45K salaries plus super.
Shit.
Because that's all I could afford. And so I had 12 consultants all on 45K plus super plus comms. And
what comms were they getting?
I think it was 10K cost of seat for the month and then 20 to 30% over. So it was like the old comm structure that I was used to at my last agency. And so like some people would bill a lot and some people would bill nothing, and no one had any experience apart from me and Josh. So I had 10 rookie recruiters on 45K plus super. Then I had me and then I had Josh. And it was really hard to like earn money, pay the bills, pay everyone. There was like conflicts in the office. I had made some really bad hires. And I thought, look, this really needs to change. So over the course of probably 12 to 18 months, I slowly exited people. And it was a bit of a hit to the ego, to be honest, going from like 12 people down to 8, then down to 6, then down to 4, and then kind of having to build back up again.
Yeah, on the surface, it looked like it was pumping.
Oh, look, I looked like the most successful guy in the world. But it wasn't like that in reality.
Yeah. And then you moved to Wollongabba.
Yeah.
And you had a huge office.
Massive office. It was like 600 square meters. And the plan was to like
build that puppy up.
Build the office. Being in business in your first couple of years, you get into the trap of ego statistics. And ego statistics are headcount. How many people work for me is usually a measurement of how successful I am. This is what a rookie business owner generally gets into the mindset of. And it's a big, big trap. So I was pushing for headcount. I wanted to grow seats at the risk of earning money. And so my biggest advice for anyone that's starting to get into business or going through this journey is don't fall for the trap of because a business, a recruitment agency or whatever has a high headcount, just because they've got 20 recruiters doesn't mean they're making money. If they've got 5 really good recruiters, they would be making more money than a business with 30 recruiters. So that was a big learning lesson where I wanted to get into the business. I wanted to get into Wollongabba. I wanted to fill up like 25 recruiters and just have this like amazing, successful agency that I thought was successful at the time. And what ended up happening was I was billing all the billings. Everyone was just so inconsistent and rookie and new, and I was trying to train everyone. I was trying to bill that, you know, if I was billing 50, 60K a month and everyone was billing 15, 0, 20, 30, 0, all this kind of stuff, then like the whole 60 grand that I would bill would go all to everyone's wages.
Yep.
And so I'm just smashing it out, trying to bill 60, 70, 80K a month just to pay salaries. And it was a fucking nightmare. It was crazy.
And did COVID pretty much bring all that to a halt?
Yeah. So I think I had 8 consultants before COVID hit. I had a pretty good team. It was all right. Could have been better. But COVID was the realization on running a lean business. So when COVID hit, it pretty much went down to me, Amy, and my PA at the time, which was Lexi. And so that was like that was like the one moment where I thought, in like that 4-week period where there was no revenue coming in, I legitimately thought like, wow, maybe this actually whole recruitment thing isn't for me. And that wasn't that long ago. That was like 3 years ago. And it's amazing what you can do in 3 years when you're in business. Different for, you know, if you're a recruiter at an agency, 3 years means fuck all. Like you're doing the same shit from year 1 to year 3. But in business, you can literally go from nothing, almost backwards, to absolute hero because your effort compounds year after year after year.
Yeah, and that's very hard for people to understand working somewhere else. So, like, how do you explain that to someone? Or do you think you just can't really fathom that until you actually leave working at another recruitment agency, or the compounding opportunities of being a business owner?
You don't even realize the compounding opportunities of being a business owner until you're a couple of years into being in business. I didn't realize the compounding effects of being a business owner until I was like 2 years in. There's so many things I wish I did differently when I first started. Hindsight's a beautiful thing. You know, you become more mature, more wise. Like I wish I had better systems, processes. I wish I like took care of the database more. I wish I focused on getting one person successful and then moving on to the next person and getting them successful and then slowly building up. So there's a lot of things that I wish I did differently, but yeah, it's too hard to explain to someone the difference between an employee and an employer. They just won't get it. It's kind of like saying to someone what it feels like to be a mother. Like you can kind of get it and understand it. But if you're not a mother, you don't really get it.
Yep.
So that's just one thing where you can try and just bang on about it as much as you can, and we obviously do at Ex-Recruiter, but people don't realize until they're in it how good it really is.
And then to put into light, like what's happened in the last 3 years, what's the team now? You got 6 full-time staff?
Yeah, I'd say 6 full-time staff.
That physically work in Brisbane?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a couple of VAs. We talk about VAs all the time. 6 consultants, plus myself in Brizzy for Vendito.
And then Australia's fastest growing recruitment podcast. You've also launched over 16 agencies, worked out that whole business model, gotten through COVID, launched a new brand, done all this with Ex-Recruiter in 3 years.
3 years. It's not that long. And there's a lot of shit that's been happening. Yeah, it's been pretty exciting.
Like, that's fucking unfathomable. People sometimes don't even get a promotion in an agency in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're driving force that's going to revolutionise an industry, I think, for years to come. Pioneering the way people work in recruitment.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, when you're an employee and you're in an agency, you stay in your lane, you do your job, and you go home. Where do you spend your time? Unwinding, watching TV, doing boring shit. Nothing that's actually builds your character or builds your skill set. Well, I know I didn't when I was in agency. I just focused on being a good recruiter and then going home. But when you become a business owner and you become a recruitment agency owner, it's almost like you get this new perspective on life, and you realize that literally anything's possible. And then for me, I like being productive and achieving things. I've always been one to like learn or spend my time learning something or educating myself. I don't really like watching like movies that much or watching TV shows.
You're a big sports fan though.
Huge sports fan. Like docos and stuff like that. I think docos and like learning things is something that I really enjoy doing. And so when you're a business owner and you realize that anything's possible if you just actually spend a little bit of time learning about it, all of a sudden learning becomes really, really fun. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize that. And then you learn this, and then you go do that, and then you learn this. And then over like learning new things consistently because you're a business owner and you need to, all of a sudden new ideas come, and then you try something new, and then a new idea comes and you try something new. And it's not until maybe the third or fourth or fifth random idea that you get that you actually execute and it sticks. All of a sudden it's this amazing thing and you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. And things change, and then the direction of your life changes. I know being a business owner, your income changes dramatically. You can get more creative of what you do with your life, whether you want to flip houses, buy investment properties, go on better holidays. There's a whole lot of benefits that the last 3 years has provided, which has been pretty good.
And what about your mindset, mate? You're pretty calm all the time. Like, where does that come from?
Where does my calmness come from?
I don't think you've, besides when I like ordered those shirts and got the printing wrong, I don't think I've seen you ever blow up at someone.
Oh, there's no reason to blow up at anyone. I'm a calm dude because I know like nothing lasts forever. And that's never truer, and it's never been truer ever since I've had a daughter. Because like, I'm going to get off topic here, but you know when your kid fucking starts crying, and when you're a parent and it's your first child, and you're like, holy fuck, what am I going to do to sort this out? This is never going to end. Like, I need to do something to change what's happening. Really, you just need to give her a couple minutes and stop crying again, and you soon realize like, wow, no matter how chaotic or crazy a situation is, it's not going to be like this forever, even if I do nothing. So maybe I just need to take a chill pill and just wait, be patient, see how things happen. Plus, I guess I've done a lot of like crazy shit in my life where nothing really phases me too much. There's always a way out. Everything always works itself out. You just got to be calm. You got to be poised. You got to just be deliberate and think, okay, what am I going to do here, and not react quickly to things. There's obviously things that piss me off and all that kind of shit, but there's no point in being
fucking
pissed
what?
off. There's no point in being pissed off unless like someone orders ex-recruiter shirts with the wrong logo on it. Then there's really nothing really in life that you should really be pissed off about.
I reckon I could bring up a few Twitter posts that would get you pretty rolled up.
Like what?
A few Twitter topics.
Like a couple of chicken wings?
Yeah, a couple of unfinished chicken wings.
Yeah.
That got me rolled
a
up.
lot of people riled up. I just find that shit funny.
And then, mate, like 50% of recruiters leave the industry in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
The team's getting pretty solid now at Vendito. What's that? Amy and Lexi have been there now for 3 years.
Yeah.
Brian and Megan have all done their 1 year. Emma's almost up to her first year.
Yeah. Everyone's
by.
kind of like, everyone's obviously still pretty new, anywhere between 1 to 2 years. And then we've got Amy that's 5 years, and then Lexi that's probably 3.5 years. Yeah, I think I've just finally made a few good hires, to be honest. I mean, if we're going to be talking about how many people I've hired at Vendito, I reckon I've probably hired 40 to 50 people at Vendito, and I've got 7 staff. So, like a lot of hiring mistakes, a lot of people coming and going. I've also never hired anyone with experience before. So every single person that's at Vendito, I trained myself. I've created the culture. I've created their mindset. I've created their workflow. They don't know anything else. But the guys that I've got at the moment, I think I've made a couple of really good hires. Well, all really good hires. And hopefully it stays that way. I think the next stage for Vendito is going to be maybe promoting within, getting more billing managers kind of set up. Now that I'm not actually in Vendito as much anymore, I'm definitely going to need to find or get someone internally to step up and start managing the team and start growing out more recruiters and more levels of management. So hopefully, hopefully maybe we might have maybe 2 or 3 more hires in the next 12 months, but we'll see how that goes.
Yep. And then, mate, what about with ex-recruiter?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got like a little side hustle thing going on. Yeah, that's pretty fun. Ex-recruiter. Nah. Ex-recruiter is obviously a game changer. I'm super passionate about ex-recruiter. I can't sleep because I'm thinking about ex-recruiter. And I think we're on to a major, major home run, not to be biased. And I don't know. Yeah, what about ex-recruiter? I could go on for ages about ex-recruiter, but you give me some direction. What do you want to know?
What gets you so excited about it?
The most exciting part is helping people realize that they can be better and they can do more. And there's this big bad world out there that they can experience. That's super exciting. I know when I started my agency, I was so lucky I could like lean into my parents. They're very entrepreneurial spirited. And that's kind of where I get my entrepreneurial flair from, I guess you could call it. But a lot of people don't have that. And if you can be that for someone and literally change someone's life, and I know in recruitment we're talking about candidates getting their lives changed and getting jobs and all this kind of stuff. It's so much different with our recruiters. Like when you,
I think it's like a level to it. There's almost like levels.
There is nothing more empowering than getting a recruiter that's earning 150 grand a year that just knows one thing, and then you go, mate, you could earn 300, 400, 500K a year. It just completely unlocks new avenues of your life that you never knew you could actually access. So that's what's really exciting. And the fact that people are doing it for themselves and they want something more, like that's what really excites me about ex-recruiter. Like I'd love to be able to positively impact, 1,000 recruiters starting their own thing, working for themselves, earning more money, getting more flexibility, more time back, being more responsible and disciplined and accountable for themselves. Because being a business owner comes from not just, being a recruiter and earning more money. There's a whole other avenue of extra skills and knowledge and wisdom that you get from having to be completely accountable to yourself, which is really the most exciting part about it. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. And I think everyone's appreciative of everything you do for everyone at ex-recruiter. Yeah, there's always something.
Oh, thanks, mate. What do you reckon, Logan? Super appreciative.
Super appreciative. Mate, I reckon I'll ask you a couple of quick questions
to
round out the show.
Oh, did you choose these questions? No, okay.
No.
Role play.
Role play?
I'm guessing.
No. What is the toughest conversation you've ever had with a staff member?
The toughest conversation. There's been a lot of really tough conversations. There's some. Oh shit. I don't know. There's some that you probably don't want to share, so I'm gonna have to think of some conversations that are shareable. Oh no, I can't say that either.
Not living up to the name.
No. The toughest conversation I've had to have with a staff member, it would definitely be like firing someone. It would be along that avenue. And yeah, I don't know. I think the toughest conversations are usually when you let someone go that is actually trying really hard. Whatever the conversation is, I mean, I'm not too sure what it would have been, unless I'm thinking of a few that would be interesting, but it's just probably extremely inappropriate.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. And then what about what's the lowest point ever at Vendito?
The lowest point? The lowest point. I guess, are we talking like financially, culturally, spiritually?
Just the worst day. Like how bad has business ever gotten that bad? Like to the point where you know how everyone freaks out and thinks, shit, starting a business is so scary. Like what was actually has there ever been like a worse point?
Look, there's been some really shitty moments in Vendito for sure. Like, I'll actually give you a bit of a funny story. Like at the time it was shit, but you know, this is pretty funny. So, we're in the Wollongabba office. Scotty, at the time, I said to Scotty, he was the longest person there. I think he'd been there 2.5 years. I said, all right, Scotty, you've got to be the manager while I'm away. I'm going away to Italy for my dad's 50th and my sister's 30th. This was like, I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe. 3 years ago, yeah. Anyway, he's like, yep, no worries, mate. You can count on me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, just make sure the fucking house doesn't burn down while I'm away, because it was like a 4.5 week holiday. So it was a decent amount of time to be away. And anyway, so I'm away. I'm traveling around Italy and Europe and with my dad and my sister, just this big family holiday. And I think one of the hardest conversations someone's had to have to me was Scotty's conversation, because I think I was away for 1 week and paid everyone's commissions. And then I got a phone call from Scotty probably an hour after, and I was on the Amalfi Coast. Beautiful. I was about to go for dinner. Beautiful views. And he's like, oh, hey mate, how are you? I'm like, yeah, good, mate. What's going on? And he's like, so, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, oh, okay, what's up? And he's like, Lachlan and Corey have both resigned. And I was like, what? Why? And he's like, mate, I don't fucking know. And I asked them if they just decided to do it together, and it was completely coincidental that they both decided to resign at the exact same time. And I was like, fuck. Okay, well, that's a shame. And he's like, mate, I'm so sorry. You left me in charge. It's only been a week and 2 people have resigned. And I was like, fuck, all right, that's all right, mate. Well, that's okay. And I think we went from like 9 people down to 7 or something like that. And I think he was pretty gutted at the time. First time I've ever gone on holidays in business and thought, all right, I think the team's pretty solid right now. I'm going to go overseas, enjoy a holiday with my family, and 2 consultants resign on my way over there, and I come back, and yeah, that was a fun one.
And the reason why I asked that, because the worst case scenario never really happens, hey?
The worst case scenario never really happens.
Well, you think it like...
Your imagination, here's a saying that I like to use. And this is what I say to everybody that's going through a breakup, that's going to start a new business, that's going through any moment in their life that they're really scared about. Your imagination runs wilder than the truth. And at the end of the day, the more you think about something, your instinctive reaction is to always think about the most crazy, worst situation. And it's never that case. Usually the truth is always somewhere balanced in the middle of like the best and worst case scenario. So, yeah.
And usually anytime someone leaves your business, it improves for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anyone's left my business and I've gone, oh, we've really taken a hit. Anytime someone's left the business, it's been a net positive. And that's probably one big thing that I would say to new agency owners is don't be afraid to let people go. Because I used to be afraid to let people go, and I used to think that I was failing if someone left. And it wasn't until my mum sat me down and said, Blake, these consultants that you're trying to turn into recruiters, they're not recruiters. They're sitting there, they're struggling. This is not recruitment for them. This is not their calling. You need to be the bigger man, and you need to let them go, and you need to stop letting them suffer so they can find somewhere that they're better at and they can actually enjoy. And then once my mum sat...
Oh, that is just the most best thing ever.
Yeah. She's like, you need to man up and you need to stop their suffering. You need to go get rid of them. And I was like, fuck. All right. And then I let them go, and they were so fucking relieved. They're like, oh, yeah, this isn't for me, Blake. But some people don't have the balls to resign. They feel like they're letting you down. So that was a really good piece of advice from my mum around you need to be the bigger man, and you need to actually make the hard decisions to look out for people's best interest. Even though at the time you think you're doing the wrong thing by them, it's actually the right thing.
Yeah, and that's a really hard thing to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Mate, that's awesome. That's so good. It's been a good time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Declan. Really appreciate it.
No worries. We'll check back. I reckon we'll do one in 5 years.
5 years' time. Let's do it.
See where it happened.
Sounds good.
See ya.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another Confessions of a Recruiter podcast with Blake and Declan. We hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value and insights out of this episode. If you do have any questions or you would like to recommend someone to come on the Confessions podcast, we would love any introductions. And remember the rule of the podcast: like, share, and recommend it to a friend. Until next time.